So I want to move into another area now, related to what we've been talking about, but want to go to something that's related, little, I would say it's a drop of a tangent, but not much, to understand this next area of Kibud Abayim. So there's an interesting mahalach on Lifnei Mishrat Hadin or Midat Hasidut. Does it apply to business or not? Right? Lifnei Mishrat Hadin, meaning the business rigor or the business practices are X. If business practices are X, do I have the obligation to do more than X? Typical partnership structure, for example, we've articulated, let's say, a partnership structure.
Morning. How are you?
We've articulated a partnership structure, and that partnership structure calls for reporting once a month, and this level of dilution should somebody not respect the capital call, whatever it might be. In the context of business, where does Lifnei Mishrat Hadin sit? Where does going beyond the letter of the law sit? Okay? If I have a partnership with Reuven and Shimon, and my responsibilities to the partnership are to do X. Should I be pining to do 1.5X or 2X? Yes or no? We're going to relate all this back to Kibud Abayim in a few minutes, but what would you say? Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shakon ya'aveh.
Amen. I mean, in business, in, let's say, call it effort or to go, it's very hard in business to limit.
It's very hard to limit.
To say, okay, I know I can do more, but do I have to do more? Like, usually,
right. Well, if I can produce more sales, I'm going to do it. Of course I'm going to do it. Right. But what if the situation with my partner calls for me to put up 100% of his capital call for 6 months, which he can't do? Right? We've made a capital call, let's say, right? Each partner has to put up $100. And partner B can't put up the $100, so one of the other partners can choose to put it up for him, in which case he'd carry the cost of that money for that time period for, let's say, 6 months. Now the 6 months go by. Now what? Do I have an obligation from the context of Midat Hasidut or Lifnei Mishrat Hadin to put it up for another 6 months? I can do what I want, right. But we're saying within the broader halachic structure, should I feel an obligation to do that or not? What would you say?
If you're an owner and you have a direct benefit in the capital call, I would say yes. Your business is your name, Shem Tov Mishem Tov. I would consider it something like that. And if you're an employee, I would say, if you're expected to do X, then you should do X.
Okay, if I'm expected to do X, I must do X. Leave that aside. Yes, good. But what if I'm expected to X? Should I do 1.5X? Chaim, what would you say?
I would say if you would do it for yourself, if you had your own capital call, now you're covering your friends, your partners, and you feel like you want to invest more into that investment, then do it for him too.
You should do it for him. You should do it for him.
If you would do it for yourself, then do it for him too. Yeah.
How do you hold? So let's say I'm going to give you a different scenario. There's a situation in the business where you're the managing partner of the business and things have gone off track. Right? Things have gone off track. But you think you can fix it. And your next meeting with your partners is in a week. You have a possibility of fixing it within that week, but in the meantime, things are off track. You have an obligation to tell them, or because of your perspective of Lifnei Mishrat Hadin, I'm going to act beyond the letter of the law. I know they're going under stress in their other divisions. Why share this with them? I think I could get it fixed anyway. Do I have an obligation to share or not?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
100%.
That minute. So if I hold back the information out of the sense that I'm helping them not feel bad,
That's not really why. That's not really why you don't tell them.
that's not why I'm not telling them. Why am I not
Because
telling
you're
them?
afraid of the consequence of telling them. If they're your partner and you know.
Did we touch on
Beautiful.
this last week or 2 weeks?
We touched on this last year.
Yeah, about.
We touched on this
worry.
last year. Very good. So we're going to touch on it briefly again, and then we're going to move it in. Exactly. So to your point, right? Say it again.
The reason why you're debating whether to tell them or not is not because, it's because you have some type of fear of consequence of telling them.
The truth is that generally speaking, the person who's not sharing the information is in his mind protecting his partners, but that's a secondary consideration, or maybe even less. The primary consideration in these cases generally is that he has a problem, and he doesn't want to admit to the problem. So you frame it in the context of Lifnei Mishurat Hadin. I'm going to do better for my partners by not sharing with them this problem, because I'm going to get it fixed anyway.
If you're a partner in information.
That's right. Excellent. If you're a partner in information, right? And don't think you're doing me a favor, halachically or otherwise, by protecting my feelings, so to speak, or my level of concern, by not telling me what's happening. Because how is it viewed? How does the partner view it?
As you're withholding.
You're not telling the truth.
Right, you're not telling the truth.
Also,
You're
it's
not
like
telling the truth,
It's
right?
like quicksand. Because
Huh?
It could be like quicksand because
How?
as
Yeah.
it gets worse, you're gonna hide more and more,
Yeah.
and then before you know it, you're bringing him.
That's right.
You know, it's just gonna,
So what is the impression of the partner? Not, I have this superstar partner who knows I'm very busy and very tied up with other things, and I got all kinds of other headaches, and therefore he's going to help me by helping me avoid the concern that I would additionally have for this. No, that's not what people feel. What people feel is, the guy's a liar. He's just a liar. He's hiding the truth. So what we see from a non-action, we see a problem. It's a non-action. You could say not telling is an action. I chose not to tell. But you could also say that it's a non-action. And people do interesting things. They couple this notion of saintly behavior with the perspective that it's a non-action, which it really isn't. It's a decision not to. It's not a non-action, it's a decision not to, in which case they have brought about a failure of trust, disenfranchisement, and worse. Right? Good. Where do we learn this core structure from? Where do we learn the core structure from? To an extreme. Where do we learn this? In the Humash. To an extreme. Huh? We learn it with Yaakov Avinu, right? We learn it with Yaakov Avinu. How's that? How do we learn business practices, real world business practice from Yaakov Avinu? How?
I'm not sure, Yaakov.
Okay.
Yes.
So, yeah. Huh? With Esav and Ephron, yeah, and who else? And Lavan, right? Excellent. So what do we learn? It's interesting because Yaakov has more psukim that speak about him than the other avot put together. Avot and imaot put together. Isn't that something? And we're called at the end of the day Bnei Yisrael, not Bnei Avraham and not Bnei Yitzhak, right? And we're not even called Bnei Yaakov, we're called Bnei Yisrael. Why? Ki sarita im Elokim v'adam v'tuchal, right? Because you, Yaakov, you wrestled straight up. You fought the world on its terms. The mega forces and the practical forces, and you won. And you know why you won? and why we're named in your name, those of us who HaKadosh Baruch Hu put here to build his Torah in this practical world, is because that's what you got to do. Isaac, I can't see you. You want to move over one? That's what you got to do. You got to fight the world, confront the world, deal with the world, not as in a bad way, on its terms. So what do we see with Yaakov Avinu? When he was dealing with certain people, he dealt with them on their terms, right? This is the classic, and now we're seeing it in the state of Israel again. It's deja vu all over again, right? Where the government is ripping itself apart because we don't yet. We have elements of the government, and we're very, very much further along than we ever were, but we don't yet have a time when we're holding and we're leading al pi halacha, black and white. If it was al pi halacha, black and white, there's nothing to talk about. Gaza would have been destroyed 20 some odd months ago, and a lot of young men probably wouldn't have died. A lot of young Jewish men. And now we have deja vu all over again. What do we do? Do we settle? Do we this? Do we that? It's a disaster. Because we're not holding that you deal with the world on its terms. So we say there's another term for this called re'izeh k're'izeh. This looking glass is like that looking glass. I look at that, that's what I'm dealing with. Yeah? When Yaakov is about to separate from Lavan, what does he do? You kept me in the field for 20 years with the sheep in the fields, right? I know how to breed sheep, and I'm going to do it. And I told you you're going to keep the pure ones, and I'm going to get the spotted ones. I'm going to get the spotted ones. Guess what? I know how to make a ton of spotted ones. And that's absolutely okay. And to Isaac's point, I deal with evil, right? I try to preempt it. And if I know I have someone who might bring evil on me, I take him out first, right? Haba l'horgecha. All true, good. Therefore, when I'm dealing in a business context in general, and you hit it perfectly when we first started the conversation, when we're dealing in a business context in general, I must deal with the business on its terms. You act like Mr. Nice Guy, it's either because you're hiding something, or if you're not hiding something, people are going to think you're hiding something. And what's the general reaction to that? When you try to be Lifnim Misharat Hadin in business, what's the general reaction?
Lying.
What do people do?
If they're genuine?
Yeah, you genuinely tried to do it, but you know what? It came out a week later that there was a problem a week ago.
And you knew about it?
And you knew about it, but you wanted to save them from the aggravation.
No, nobody wants to be partners with you.
Nobody wants to be partners with you. Why?
Can't trust you.
Can't trust you. 1 second, Reuven. I tried to save you from the problem. I thought I could fix it. I knew you had a headache with something else. Listen to me, dear Shimon. Don't be a wise guy. I'm not a baby. We jumped in the frying pan together. Good? Mm-hmm. Excellent. So, yeah? We're all good on this. Yeah.
Concept you mentioned, Yaakov is the one that we learned the most from. I didn't realize that. But he's named Yaakov because of the ekev from came out from his mother, and so he preempted the pain of his mother.
Right.
So they asked the question, why would you call him Yaakov? Why not Yisrael? What kind of name is Yaakov? Which seems like a derogatory name of Yaakov. And they said because he preempted the pain of he didn't want his mother to have the pain of coming out the second child, so he held on to his brother. So on that point, when you're a partner, not only do you have the fiduciary obligation, but you should, in other words, if you learn from Yaakov, before think ahead of time, what could cause my partner
Fantastic.
pain and avoid it for them.
Fantastic.
Even if it's not.
Fantastic. By the way, where did you get this from?
I don't remember.
Okay. I want you to think about where you got it from. Okay? Because a lot of people stumble in this thing, and it causes a lot of pain in the general context. Mm-hmm. Okay? It's a very, very important value because people think they're doing good. Mm-hmm. I protected you.
I'd rather a partner tell me when he thinks there's a problem and really there's no problem, but he's just being cautious.
That's right. That's right. Good. Okay? Very good. Good. So what are we getting? We're getting the perspective of an impression or a nuance or a lack of could be a problem, right? I created an impression with a non-action. I created a feeling with a non-action. I didn't fess up to my partners, and I created lack of trust. Good? So we see this very complex and subtle infrastructure on a human level that absolutely impacts whatever we'll do on a Ben Adam L'Chavero level and a Ben Adam to his parents, a child to his parents. Okay? Very good. So now, let's go one step further. What is Lashon Harah? What is it? What is it?
Speaking truthfully about something derogatory about somebody or something.
Right. So it could be truthful speech, right? Assuming it's truthful speech, that leads to a negative impression, right? And let's frame it that way with that slight modification. It leads to a negative impression, right? It's a truthful statement. Doesn't have to be a negative statement. It could be a positive statement that leads to a negative impression. That's what I want you to tease out. It could be a positive statement that leads to a negative impression. Okay? Which is why some people will reframe it and say it's Lashon Ra'ah. It's Lashon, it's the tongue, all right, or the language that brings about something negative, something evil. So let's take an example. If we have a case where, someone is holech rachil, right, walking around, spreading something about what somebody did or didn't do, that was wrong, right? That was wrong. That was inappropriate, right? That's classic case, right? What's the problem? That lashon, that language, is going to cause ra. It's going to cause a sense of negativism about that person, or worse, right? So that's your classic case. Someone does not have an obligation to know. They don't have an obligation to know. It's not a shidduch situation. It's not a potential partner. There's no obligation to fess up because there might be damage caused by this information that I know directly and 100% to be true, but I go ahead and offer it anyway. Holech rachil, I'm walking around spreading this stuff. I don't have a lot to talk about, or I want to win this person's attention, or that person's favor, or I want to, whatever it might be, yeah? So that's your classic Lashon Harah case. But because we know that it's not about what you said, it's about the impression that came from it, then what are other offshoots of it? If I know that Reuven doesn't like Shimon, right? If I know that Reuven doesn't like Shimon, and I tell Reuven some super nice things about Shimon, knowing he can't deal with it. The pain is too raw. He's not going to take it as an Aharon HaKohen move that I'm trying to create some type of love between them or rapprochement between them. He can't handle it. So therefore, if I know Shimon, for example, has been hurt by Reuven, and he's absolutely not in a position to absorb the good, I shouldn't go around strutting it around, thinking that I'm doing something good, because that's considered Lashon Harah or Lashon Ra'ah. Because if Shimon has been recently hurt by Reuven, right, and he's not in a state of mind to accept this thing, then you can only exacerbate his anger. You're only going to make him more hurt by what he's doing. Let me tell you about, I did it once. I was misinformed about something. I thought that, and I learned a huge lesson from it. I thought that a couple had gotten back together. And it wasn't true. And I didn't do my homework. I never did that again. I didn't do my homework. The reality was the couple did not get back together. What I had heard, what I was told was totally wrong. So I saw the wife, and I went over to her, And I said, you know what? Your husband's really a great guy. A, he's not a great guy. And B, and this was maybe 30 years ago, and I could picture the moment in my mind as if it happened a minute ago. Yeah? Hi. Thank you. Yaduchamim. I'll never forget the expression on her face. Ever. I will never forget it. This is a person who I knew for many years, and, you know, so to the extent that I have credibility with that person going forward, I would highly doubt it, but who cares about that? But that was a very hurtful thing. And so you can create the ra of that a lashon, a tongue can create by saying a good thing too, right? You could create it by saying something inappropriate. Therefore, we want to all be Aharon HaKohen, right? But we're very, very careful about that. Therefore, we don't compliment someone in front. We don't say a compliment about someone to someone whom we know is fighting with them. For example, Reuven has a dispute with Shimon, right? We know that it's a difficult situation. We're not judging anybody. But we don't go over to Shimon and tell him what a good guy Reuven is. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I have a major problem with him. Okay, you want to think about how you might find a way over time to rebuild and to bring us back together slowly, this, that, that's one thing. But to walk over and stam drop a compliment, that's Lashon Harah. Because that creates more distance, more pain, more anger. We're all clear on that, right?
Regardless of his intention of saying it.
Regardless of his intention. Excellent. Regardless of his intention. If I know that there's a problem between these two people, and me going over and complimenting Reuven to the person Shimon who they're at war, without a thoughtful, calculated, careful, step-by-step understanding of what I'm doing, that's absolutely Lashon Harah, because that causes further distance, further alienation, further anger. Right? Good. Now, what if, on the other hand, somebody overly complimented somebody? Somebody overly complimented somebody. Somebody exaggerated the compliment. Reuven's a good guy. Shimon's also a good guy. They're both working hard. They have a good relationship, fine relationship. Somebody walks over to Shimon and says, you know what, I know you and Reuven work together. I got to tell you, Reuven's a superstar. He's just a superstar. I think the world of him. Exaggeration, overly flattery, exaggerated terms.
You should never do anybody.
Why not?
You should never over-exaggerate.
Why not?
Flatter.
Why not?
Should you do that?
Why not?
I mean, unless you have a purpose in mind.
Okay, why shouldn't you do it, Jeffrey? You're right. Why shouldn't you do it?
It's not sincere.
No. Stay in the context of where we are. No, it might be sincere. No, very good. You hit a very good point.
So
might be good. It might be sincere. Why shouldn't you do it?
Oh, so it's not exaggerated. I mean, why would it be
It's
exaggerated?
true.
Why shouldn't you do it?
Because it's going to lead to a feeling of the other person.
Excellent.
It's true. He is a great guy.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy. Cool it. He's a good guy. But they're working together. They're both struggling to get on their feet. There's a dynamic here that you may or may not be privy to. Cool it. Don't exaggerate. This is the greatest person I ever saw in the world. What are you doing? What are you doing? This is not a Torah model. It's not a Torah model. We don't go around and push people to the sky.
Okay, but the first example you gave about telling somebody about somebody you're at war with, that might help the person get in an angle to resolve the issue.
Very good. Very good, Jeffrey. Very good. Excellent. So I want you to say like this. Lashon Ra'ah. I want you to say, we call it Lashon Harah, but I want you to look at it in your mind as Lashon Ra'ah, meaning that something that's shared will bring about pain, anger, disenfranchisement, whatever it might be. It could be a negative thing that somebody says about somebody else. It could also be a positive thing.
Right.
It could be a positive thing that's said to two people who like each other, but it's an exaggerated positive. What do you mean? Can you ever exaggerate saying something nice about somebody? The answer is you can. And if my exaggeration, which was only heartfelt and well-intended, might cause another person to say, he's not that good of a guy. He's really not. He's a good guy. Cool it. He's not great. Slow down. This is the greatest. And we have that now. It's very contemporary. It's very hot now. This is the greatest. Really? Oh, I kind of thought God was the greatest. But leaving that aside, when did anybody become the greatest?
So I would just take it with a grain of salt.
You would. But if the other person was struggling, maybe the other person would be hurt by it or confused by it. What do you mean? This is the greatest? Why? What am I doing wrong? Yeah.
And the malachim don't take it with a grain of salt, right? From
Excellent.
what I understand.
Excellent.
Even if the guy's great, they say, oh, he's great, let's look at his books. Let's see how great he really is. And they'll
Excellent.
find the one thing that he's not...
Excellent. I want to add one other point. I'm going a little bit beyond, but I want to add one other point. And this is something that, I'll tell you another quick story. We were sitting on my porch one Shabbat afternoon. I'm sitting with my wife, and we're talking this, that. Somebody walks by. I jump off my chair to give him an over-the-top Shabbat Shalom, hello. Okay, come back after I made myself into I don't know what, by going too far with the hello. My wife tells me, when is this going to stop? I said, what are you talking about? She said, when is the people-pleasing thing going to stop? Wow. That's a very big comment. So let me tell you what I took from that. First of all, she's 1,000,000% right. We should not be people-pleasers, ever. Because when you go too far with something like that, you deprecate and embarrass and belittle yourself. You're not allowed to do it. I'm going to tell you again, Joe. I'm going to give you another iteration. Excellent. I know, it's a very hard thing. That's why I'm going to give you another example. I'm going to give you another example. I'm going to give you another example. Okay? We're opening our college in a couple of weeks, right? So I'm teaching the entrepreneur course. It's a Torah-based class that I developed many years ago, that I taught to a lot of people, from yeshiva day schools to Baruch College to corporations to stat. Depending on the setting, I used certain Torah terms or not, and it was tempered by my business, my years in business. Good? Okay, very good. You know what? One of the cornerstone points I want to teach the students, and I don't know, I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to get them to own this point, that I want them to walk around as if they have $1 million in their bank account all the time, period. Well, you know what? Maybe walk around like you have $10 million in your bank account. What's the difference, Jeffrey? If somebody walked around as if they had X millions of dollars in their bank account or not. Confidence, and
they're going to feel secure.
And
they're not going to feel inferior to anybody.
There you go. Are they going to jump off the porch to give the undeserving person an over-the-top hello, which is effectively Lashon Harah? Because in this case, my wife was sitting and said, what's going on here? He ain't that good. He doesn't deserve that. And she's right. So what I did, I violated an Isur Deoraita. I violated a biblical prohibition. Huh?
But this guy's not a bad guy.
He's not a bad guy.
Not undeserving of...
That's exactly the point. Perfect, Joe. He's not a bad guy.
100% sincere, you mean? When you're doing
That's
it,
right.
you're not totally sincere.
That's right. Okay. People pleaser. People pleaser. One of the main things I hope to achieve with my students in this program is never, ever to feel that anybody is better than them.
The person you're doing it to is not going to appreciate it either.
Because he knows it's a lie. He knows it's a lie. So he knows he was lied to.
Right.
I know I'm lying.
Right.
The bystander knows I'm a liar.
Right.
And the Malachim aren't happy about it. In real terms. Now, let's go back, right? The person who's primarily hurt by this is the talker, the speaker. Imagine for a minute, it was interesting, I had a conversation with a lady from Morgan Stanley, happens to be a Yeshiva Flatbush High School graduate from many years ago. She runs their philanthropy division. She manages a couple of $1 billion of her clients' money a year. You know? And she was saying that the primary problem that her clients' children and grandchildren have is failure to launch. They can't go from 0 to 1, she called it. What are you talking about? They have nothing but money. They can't go from 0 to 1. Wow. They have conferences sponsored by Morgan Stanley, this, that, to get in front of these people. Okay, very good. Why can't they go from 0 to 1? Somehow, these people may have $1 million in their pocket, but they don't feel it. So imagine the difference between someone who says hello to someone with that absolute, unshakable sense of confidence, or someone who pitches a deal to a group of potential investors or partners with an absolute sense of confidence, and someone who doesn't. It's the beginning or end of the conversation. Because the person who presents without the confidence is going to be seen through immediately. In a minute, in a second. And effectively, when you invest with someone or in something, what are you investing in? You're investing in the person. You're not investing in the idea. And if this person is a people pleaser, who am I investing in? Some dog who's lapping up to me? That's another form of Lashon Harah. I'm using my tongue to create a misimpression, and it muddies and clouds and dirties and breaks.
Well, you're exaggerating there too.
Yeah. Yeah. You're exaggerating there too, effectively. Yeah.
Are we not expressive people? That's how we talk. Like, you say someone's the greatest. I don't know that I mean that every time, but that's
Good. So don't say it anymore.
In the Gemara, don't they have what they call fat words? Sometimes even they said things that were not true, but they said them anyways.
Guzman ba'alma, right? Guzman ba'alma, exaggerations, right? We have a hard time dealing with them. You're 100% right. You're 100% right. We struggle with how to understand them, but sometimes exactly that they're brought that way, and we have to understand why the rabbis were exaggerating in this case, because it's a guzman. It's an exaggeration.
So is this to just understand the sensitivity? Is that what we're
That's why I'm doing. That's what all it is. I want to lay the platform to understand the sensitivity here, because to Morris's point, we are very, hyperbolic when we speak. Yeah, we do get very excited about things, and this is not to make us deadpan, uninteresting, and unenthusiastic people. That's not the point. The point is to just curb your enthusiasm, right? Temper your enthusiasm. That's a good thing.
Don't go over the top.
Don't go over the
We
top.
also do.
Huh?
Like something's the greatest, or it's like horrible.
Right, he's the greatest or horrible. In either case, it's a lie. Good. Now, good? We got the platform? Excellent. Okay. So now, let's bring it into the context of Kibud Avayim. Right? We know that just to recap, we know that any type of speech that will create a misimpression, a negative impression, whether it's negative speech, inappropriately said, or unnecessarily said, whether it's positive speech said in the wrong context, whether it's not informing someone close to me in a business or other context on something that they should by right be informed to, whether I'm holding back, and that creates an absence of speech, which also creates the same problem. It's all the same bucket, right? Now, I have a deoraita in that context, right? We framed all of these as biblical issues, right?
Is Lashon Harah of omission too?
That's what we're holding. That's what we're holding. Because it creates the wrong impression and will create a negative situation. Good. So what about now when I have to balance the concept of Lashon Harah with Kibud Avayim? Now let's see what we got. I'm going to read from Maran. Im Shomea, Shehora Medabrim Lashon Harah. Someone hears his parents speaking Lashon Harah. Afilu omrim emet. They're telling the truth. Milvad shemuzhar lekabel Lashon Harah. Outside of the fact, exclusive of the fact that the person has to somehow work in his own head not to accept it, not to emotionally, intellectually buy into what they're saying. Besides that I have to work on me, in any makabel, like we used to say years ago, I'm not accepting it. Wow. I have to stop him from doing it. My father, my mother is God, and there's my father, right? That's what, to exaggerate just a little.
You're not going to be seen as very respectful.
Right. Very good, yeah.
What about the stories of rabbis at a dinner of sorts, and the hostess makes something, too salty or not great, and they eat it anyway and say it's delicious? Is that not over-exaggeration?
So eating it anyway is one thing, and saying it's delicious is something else.
We see those stories all the time.
Eating it anyway is one. Let's look at those stories more carefully. Let's look at them. They tie back a little bit to what Jaime was mentioning. Let's look at those stories more carefully, and let's see. Let's see.
Okay.
All right? Kalana Ava Hasuda, when, you have an obligation to compliment a bride, even if she's not, not worthy of a compliment, because it's a very sensitive point. But if a bride was, absolutely unattractive, do you go over to the husband and say, you married the most beautiful girl in the world? You wouldn't do that. Kalana Ava Hasuda. She's nice looking, she's a nice person, and if you thought that was going to be misheard or misinterpreted, you wouldn't say that. But the point is to say a nice, appropriate thing, and not it to be an exaggeration. Okay, in this case, we're balancing two things. Mom and Dad are speaking Lashon Harah about Reuven, right? It's clearly Lashon Harah, for any of the reasons that we mentioned so far, right? Good. But can I call my parent out on it and criticize my parent? Isn't that a violation of another Doraita, of another biblical mitzvah? What do you want me to do here? Right? Good. So let's see. So it says, the person himself, has to somehow not listen to it or not take it in, not internalize it. Very, very, very difficult thing to do. How do you do it?
I didn't say to stop them. I said lemnoa is to prevent.
Yeah, lemnoa otam. Yeah.
So prevent sounds like maybe switch the topic to something else, like
But that's yeah.
Beautiful, fantastic.
Not tell them you can't do that.
Yeah.
If you start
Fantastic.
going against, to stop them is one thing. To prevent.
Nice. And
See, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear
you're
it.
catching a beautiful time. I don't want to hear it. Might be disrespectful.
I don't want to hear
Right.
it.
Going like this, you're escalating.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
telling
yeah.
them what to do. I'll just say, please, I don't want to hear it.
That's
Okay.
the same thing.
Okay, I don't want to hear it. I don't know. It depends on the chemistry in the family, this, that. I don't want to hear it.
I'm your father. I'm your grandfather. Tell me
Chances
something.
are you
Yeah, so I'm telling you something.
If I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear something bad about somebody. So
Okay, very good.
I don't want to hear
Okay.
it. I don't want to hear it.
Okay, fine. Okay, would that be considered disrespectful? Is
I
the
don't think
question.
that's just, you're not
Okay.
telling them, you're not criticizing them.
think they would feel
It's not a criticism of
I would take it as a criticism.
that I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Your father's telling you something.
I mean, it's the most polite way I could say.
Maybe it is. It depends on the dynamic. Maybe it is.
Tell him, did you hear
It's
that?
indirect. It's indirect criticism. It's criticism, but indirect.
Okay, that we want to get to indirect criticism. Perfect. We want to get to indirect. If in the family dynamic you're talking about, that would be considered indirect, you're fine. But if it wouldn't be, now you have a challenge because you have the prohibition about hearing Lashon Harah versus the positive commandment of honoring a parent. So he says like this. He says, "Milvad shemuzham lekabel Lashon Harah tzarich gam limnoa otam mizeh." He's got to tell them in a non-disrespectful way, if possible, that he doesn't want to hear it. And then he's got to also make an effort to tell them to stop. Why? Because you can't have somebody do something wrong that you know is wrong, people you care about, in fact, so it adds to the problem, right? And you not do anything about it. צריך גם למנוע אותם. אך ייזהר שיהיה בדרך כבוד, ושלא לומר להם שהם עוברים על דברי תורה. Right? It should be...
We're supposed to rebuke our parents?
No, don't tell them.
It's not supposed to be said in the form of rebuke, but an attempt must be made to stop it. It's not supposed to be said in the form of rebuke, but an attempt must be made to be stopped. So how do you do it? אלא יאמר להם בלשון שאלה, האם אין בדבר הזה חשש לשון הרע? What are we saying? Explain.
Do you think that what you're saying might be...
Tell them in a question form,
Right.
Daddy, I don't know. I was just learning about this thing. I heard this thing. You downplay your own perspective on it. Daddy, I don't know much about this. I think I heard something that I really don't know. But would that be considered Lashon Harah maybe? So now what did you do? You
made the person who's speaking it question themselves and maybe stop themselves in the track
Fantastic. And how did you do it?
by just posing the question.
And how did you do it? One more step? Respectfully.
Following a respectful route.
Right? You followed a very respectful route by asking him to tell you what the halacha is. I'm going to tell you what the halacha is. I know. I'm going to chastise my father.
This can help somebody in so many ways of life, right? Just being, we know what's going to get somebody going in general. Stay away, be careful, be sensitive the way you approach people.
That's right. This is a massive point.
Yeah.
Present it as a question. But what does this take? It takes discipline. It takes being fully vested in the moment where I'm not just shooting my mouth off. Western culture is, I say what I think. There's a lot of phrases like that. What is another term?
Say what's on your mind.
I say what's on my mind. I say what I think. And others that say that I push it out the minute it's in my head. The Torah model is that I think about what I say before, during, and after I say it. Before I said it, I weigh it, right? The antithesis, if I say what's on my mind, before, during, while I'm saying it. I'm not released from my obligation of responsibility to what I'm saying because the phrase is half out of my mouth already. And I'm required to retrospectively look at what I've said and weigh it.
In case you need to correct or clarify something.
Perfect. So we don't say what we feel. We don't say what's on our mind. We're the opposite. We're retrospective. We're introspective. We're very thoughtful.
Then afterwards, you see how it was received.
Excellent.
How did you just receive what I said?
Beautiful.
Well, that's not what let me.
Yeah, that's right. I walk away from the conversation, and I keep it in the back of my mind, and maybe a handful of hours later, I say, you know what? I didn't mean to say it, for example, but he heard a but at the end of my sentence. I never intended a but he heard a but. From his perspective, based on his facial reaction or body language, or the tone of his response to me, he heard something I didn't intend to say, therefore, I got to go back at that. And that's a very, very high level of sensitivity. So when we're saying here that how do you confront a parent on the situation? How do you confront? You confront with a question, and it's a self-effacing question. Daddy, I don't know much about this, but could that be deemed as something derogatory? Could it create a misimpression in the other person? Ha'im en badavar zeh chashash lashon harah? Daddy, would it be possible that in the way we're talking about this, maybe not you're saying it, there's a possible concern of Lashon Harah? This way, I'm not confronting my father. I'm asking him to tell me what the story is here, where I clearly know what the story is. That's the sensitivity here. Nice. Right? Like we said earlier, we hear his parents praising somebody in front of his enemies. Right? My case, the Reuven Shimon case, right? The people who are no longer married were praising the husband in front of the wife who was hurt by this guy. Because I didn't have the cautiousness and the rigor and the sense of responsibility to really drive all the way down the road and get the details. So the same thing, it's Lashon Harah. It's Lashon that brings about evil. It's the moving of the tongue that brings about evil. So if my parents are if I hear my parents praising Reuven's enemy to him, right? It's his enemy, or somebody who hurt him, doesn't have to be an enemy. It could be someone who hurt him. I hear my parents praising them to him, right? I know that's also a form of Lashon Harah. And what I do is I tell my mother, Mom, I don't know if you heard about it, but these two people had a very, very difficult falling out. I don't know. Is it the best idea to say this kind of thing? Again, I'm asking. The point is, I must confront my parent. I must.
I think it might be different if you give a general, oh, great person, great that's hurtful. But if you pinpoint one thing, praise one quality, specific quality in the person, even if you're at war with that person, I think a person can handle it.
It could be.
At that point, yeah, okay.
It could be, and it could be.
The greatest, kind of great.
It could be, and it could be they can't. So I have to be hyper aware. It could be yes, and it could be no. Yeah, Morris.
What if your parents tell you Lashon Harah? Could be Lashon Harah. It's a story with a lesson for you at the end. So and so went to college and joined XYZ clubs and met someone,
and they're telling me the person's name.
Yeah.
Okay.
But meanwhile, my point being, they're not telling you the story so that just for the guys. They're telling you. So.
Are you going to think differently about that person? Are you going to judge the person, even though you know that they meant to teach you a lesson and you're learning the lesson primarily? But are you going to denigrate that person in your mind? The answer is yes.
I'm going to think differently about my father? Or
about the person who went to college and failed or whatever it might be, right?
Of course.
Of course you are. Good. So tell me the story without telling me the person's name. And tell me the story in a way where I'm not going to figure out the person's name. For example, sometimes people will tell over a story in a social media posting or in a speech from a pulpit or something like that, where the issue is very raw. And everybody knows who they're talking about. I'm a big tzaddik. I didn't say the person's name. You sure did. Of course you did. So change the story, or don't say it. And if it's a current story, say, 20 years ago, I saw this thing. Take people off the beat.
What if the person already knows about that person already? Can you bring it out? Can
That's
you bring out the thing to teach them a lesson?
That's an excellent question. It's an excellent question.
Let's learn from this.
It's an excellent question. My guess would be yes. But it's an excellent question. I want to think about it some more. Person already knows, right? So I'm not creating any greater sense of negative perspective.
You want to draw a lesson from
right.
this.
Okay, could be yes. My guess is yes. Okay, a few more minutes. We have a little bit of time. Okay, so chen im shomea et Torah shemeshapchim echad b'pnei son'av, right? They're praising someone in front of his enemies. Harehu bichlal avak lashon hara. What is avak lashon hara? The dust of Lashon Harah. So if someone is praising someone else in front of his enemies, where they're going to immediately say, that bum, that cheat, that liar, he's not doing that. You can't call that Lashon Harah front line, but it's one drop, 1 degree below.
Oh, we thought, wait. That seems to be even worse, though. If he says it, seems to be even worse if the guy's just going to feel bad. Before we were just talking about the guy's going to feel bad. He's not saying anything.
Right.
So if that's already bad, how is this seems lighter?
If the guy, very nice. I hear that. You would say maybe not. Maybe it's straight line, on the same line. Great.
At least.
I think so. I think you could certainly say that. Nice. V'im hu marbeh lesaper b'shvavcho. This is a great one. If we, when we exaggerate the good, right? And this is also very, very popular now. Very, very popular in our circles, unfortunately. We exaggerate the good. This is the great Rabbi X, the great Mr. Y. Great. So what happens when somebody calls somebody out as the great, or I've heard lately, great, great. We went from great to great, great. We went from great, great to great, great, world renowned. Wow. Great, great, world renowned. What happens when somebody hears that? What might happen? They say, he ain't that great. He's good. He's good. World renowned? I don't know about world renowned. Donald Trump is world renowned. I don't know if this person is world renowned. So what does that do? What does it do? It causes the person to think negatively about the person referenced, and that's also within the context of Lashon Harah. When an exaggeration, a guzma, is mentioned about a person, right? Ve'im hu marbe desaper b'shfacho afilu shelo b'fnei sonav asur. Even not in front of the people who don't like him, in front of regular people. Cool it, right? We started here. Don't go crazy with your praise. Don't go crazy with your praise. The only one we go absolutely crazy with praise is God. Everybody else, cool it. Less is more. Yeah? Because if we exaggerate something, invariably...
Well, we can never go crazy with praise with God enough.
That's right, we can't. That's right, we can't. We can't get to
Short
any,
version,
the
but
smallest
we
thing,
have
right.
to do it.
Very good. But with a person, we've got to say, okay, easy. Because invariably, somebody's going to walk away shaking their head and saying, it's not true. And the person who was a quality person, who does do good things, now has been framed as the greatest, or the whatever, now that person is denigrated in the listener's mind. So any of these cases are Lashon Harah, or Avat Lashon Harah, and therefore we must somehow respectfully call a parent out and not let it go. You might say that because Kibbud Av V'Em is such a high level mitzvah, and these things are somewhat, they're somewhat incidental, right? Nobody came out and said that's a bad guy. My father didn't come out and say that's a bad guy. My father came out and said that he's a super, super, super good guy, which means the listener is going to hear negative things about him, yeah, and think less of him, which is Avat Lashon Harah, which you might call a lesser level. Maybe it's a D'Rabbanan, you might say. Even so, I have to call my father out on it. How do I call my father out on it? In an indirect way, as a question. Good. Thoughts? Questions?
I have a question. In the case of the question, where we have to propose it as a question, what happens if the guy doesn't get it? And also, what happens where the truth hurts? You know, there's a time...
What happens if the guy doesn't get it? Very good. Excellent. What do you want to do?
In the business case, I don't even think you should propose it as a question. You have to tell the guy the truth as it is.
So in business case, you have to tell the guy the truth. But talking about a parent.
A parent, if he's not getting it, I guess you'd be patient and wait for the right time. Other than that, I'm not sure how to bring it up.
Okay, so you were saying that the first approach is as a question. Dad, you know what? I heard that maybe speaking this way, might be considered, I don't know, but what do you say? Now, if they didn't hear it, or they heard it and they said, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
What do you do? I have no idea.
So then you would say, you know what, Daddy, I'm confused by this kind of talk. I really am. I'm confused by it. I'd rather not go there. So what do I do? You know, what do they do when they used to say when people break up, it's not you, it's me? Kind of thing, right?
It's me. I'm confused.
Right? It's not you, it's me.
Is leaving the room an option?
Huh?
Like, let's say you just don't want to be a part of it.
Very nice.
And you don't really want to go there.
You could say I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah, like say
or
something.
go get
Yeah.
something, but
Like,
So I've heard from parents on this issue. I've heard from parents who know why their kids are leaving the room. They know why their
Why
kids are leaving.
kids leave? Oh.
They're leaving the room for good reason. They suggested to the parent not to say it in a very respectful way. They even maybe went to step 2 and said, Daddy, I'm not criticizing you, but I'm struggling with this thing of other people and conversations like that. It's hard for me. I'd really rather avoid it. They've done that. And then, after neither was heated, they leave the room.
Oh, I'm just saying, leave the room without that. Just don't even, like, I forgot something.
Leave the room without that.
Because you don't want to even make them feel.
Leave the room without that. And again, I've heard from parents on this, where their children have gotten up and left the room. The parent knows exactly what's happening and why, and it's very hurtful and disrespectful. Very, very hurtful. By the way, this is very popular now. It's very popular.
But that's how you leave the room also.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm not saying leave. I'm saying make something. You know,
yeah,
like,
make something. I want another thing. Okay, good. So generally speaking, people get it. They get it. Generally speaking, people get it. And it brings, again, I've only heard a handful of parents approach me on it, not knowing what to do. But generally speaking, people get it, and they're hurt by it. And it's better, if possible, to say, Dad, listen, I struggle with this thing. Can we just hold off on it? I struggle.
It's more respectful than leaving the room.
It's much more respectful.
And you're being awareness in a good way.
Yeah, I'm struggling with something. I'm struggling.
You know, the kids that are in situations. It's not Lashon Harah. Different things. Let's say their parents are. They don't keep Shabbat, and it's.
We're going to talk about that.
You know, even like somebody was telling me a story how there's music on.
Right.
When they visit their parents.
Very good. We're going to talk about those cases. We're going to talk about them probably tomorrow. So we're going to talk about them. Good. So hold that idea. So in the context of this, it's not you, it's me, because it's a parent, and the kabod can't be shaken or moved to the side. The question becomes, if you mentioned it a few times and they don't listen. You mention it a few times and they don't listen. Now what do you want to do? Now what do you want to do? What do you say?
You tried. You're going to have to be direct at some point.
Huh?
You're going to have to be direct at some point.
So you did all the indirect stuff that we talked about, yeah? And?
I found that one of the ways of done the right way is show them the book. Show them what you're reading. Show them
Depends on if they care or not.
It's not my opinion. This is what the rabbi said
Excellent.
700 years ago.
Great. Okay.
If they view that as
Great. And what if they don't listen? Then, good, very good. And then I would say, because we still can't exempt ourselves from this. So then I would say, you go with Daddy, say, listen, Daddy, I know we spoke about this a few times.
If you show them the source.
Yeah. This is not me. Here's the thing.
Then just leave the room.
Then just leave the room. Then just leave the room. Then just leave the room. When I've made a very, very, very sincere effort, I've been incredibly respectful, I've put it on me, I've put it on the source, now I say, okay, listen, I'm not criticizing anybody, but I gotta step out of the room when these conversations happen. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I have to step out of the room. And that to me, to your point, is what halacha mandates. You can't stay in the room. Ultimately, you can't stay in the room. What we began to mention, we're going to talk about it further with Joey's point, is people have been told to leave the room these days without all of the steps that we've talked about.
We just said it in the beginning of the class. You send the goats, you send the party first, you do all the niceties.
Right.
And then eventually you prepare for war.
Yeah, exactly. So, these are some of the beautiful points of halacha. We worked in depth to get a very broad and detailed understanding within its context of Lashon Harah and Lashon Ra'ah, and to put it side by side with another deoraita, which is Kibbur Avim, and I think we have some important perspectives about it. Baruch Adonai L'olam, amen.